Okay, let's move on to the next set of plots. So this is in the San Francisco city government data, and we have some bar plots. Now, the previous line plots we were looking at are relational plots because they relate numeric values to each other. And we saw two types of rel plots. There was a default scatter plot, which we'll see again later, and also a line plot. But this one, instead of having two numeric values that you're relating to each other, you have one numeric value, which is going to be the total pay with benefits or the number of positions or so on, some numeric value, and then a bunch of different categories. So this is called a cat plot rather than a rel plot. And then the specific type of cat plot that it is a bar with orientation vertical. And so let's go ahead and do the same thing here. So we're using filter.nLargest in order to get a data set. And let me go ahead and add a cell and start by looking at filtered. Actually, let me go ahead and I'm going to re-execute these to make sure that I have everything that's current. So I'm going to open the SQLite database and read the salaries data out of it. And then for cleaning the data, we'll do that. Some more cleaning. Okay, and then now we should have filtered. So we're going to look at filtered. And then what we want to do is get the n largest. Let's say the largest 20 by total pay with benefits. And I have to actually specify columns. So columns is total pay benefits. All right. So here's a data frame that I can use, and we'll call that top 20 is that. And then, so I'm going to use Seaborn, and I'm going to do a cat plot. And then what I was doing before was a vertical plot of bar chart. So let's do kind is bar, and then by default orientation should be vertical, but what it actually does is it looks in the columns that are available, and when there's one numeric and one non-numeric, it automatically knows that the non-numeric is the category and the numeric is the value. And so if I say the x-coordinate is going to be job title, then it automatically knows that the bars are going to be vertical and that each job title will be a separate entry on the x-axis. So x is job title and y is total pay benefits. And got a little error here. Could not interpret input job title. Let me go ahead and display top 20 again. Oh, I didn't put the data argument here. So data is going to be top 20. There. All right. So here is my plot, and it looks kind of ugly. So let's go ahead and start by rotating those labels. So a lot of the properties that actually govern the look of this graph are on something called an axis object. And so when you plot something, each of the trends that you plot is put in a separate axis. And then you can access the axes like so. So this thing here is going to return a graphics object. And then for each axis in this graphic object, you can do something. So for axis in, it's actually axis is the singular, in g.axes, which is the plural, as a flat list. And then I can do a bunch of things to customize the look and feel here. And the one that I'm most interested right now is to adjust the tick parameters. So that's going to be axis the tick params. And I want to specify rotation here. So let's rotate them 90 degrees. And then let's go ahead and execute that. All right, so these have been rotated. And then I didn't actually want to do the Y parameters here, though. Let's just do the X ticks. There. And then I'm getting these little bars here because I'm actually passing more than 2 columns. So there are actually multiple values for examiner, and where Matplotlib was just showing individual bars, what Seaborn does is it aggregates the results for each of these columns and then sort of shows me the range using that whisker there. So if I want to get rid of that, what I have to do is group the data myself. And so instead of just top 20 filtered and largest, let's do filtered. And then I'm going to group by job title and take the mean value of total pay benefits and then the 20 largest of those. Could not interpret input job title. Yeah, so job title goes away after I do that. So let's actually display this. Yeah, so it's using job title as the index. So let's go ahead and reset the index. Okay. There we go. So I got rid of those whiskers at the top because I'm only displaying the mean values now. And things are a little jammed together. So let's spread this out by changing the figure size. So I'm going to cat plot and I'm going to add the fig size argument, or actually the width argument is, let's do 10. Let's get rid of this display. So width is actually the width of the bar. Let's try height is 6 and aspect is 1.33. Okay. So that seems to be working. And then if I want to have horizontal bars, I just flip my X and Y coordinates. So let me copy this. Actually, I just need this one line here. And then I'm going to add another cell, paste that in. And this time I'm going to use job title for Y and total pay benefits for X. So there's a horizontal bar chart. And it just figures that out based on the type of the data in each of these 2 columns.